All right, so this is going to be your video reviewing the Module 4 study guide that I handed out today, Wednesday, November 2nd. So let's look at this first question. Sarah wants to make a snack when she gets home from school. She decides to warm up some chicken fingers in the microwave. The instructions on the package say to cook one chicken finger. You need to cook it for 4 minutes. For each additional chicken, you need to add an additional 1.5 minutes to cook time. Write an equation that can be used to determine the total time y to cook the x number of chicken fingers. So all we're doing here is writing an equation. So we're going to write y is equal to 1.5x, because 1.5 is our slope. That's how much it's changing each time we add a chicken finger, plus 4, because that's the initial amount that we have to cook one chicken finger. So that's our equation in slope-intercept form. It was that easy. Now let's take a look at question number 2. It says students recorded the amount of hours they studied per week and their GPA. The table shows their GPA, y, and the studying and time studying per week, x. So these here are my x values, these here are my y values. All right. The table is essentially there just to distract you. Really what we want to look at is the equation. So the situation can be modeled with the equation y equals 0.2x plus 2.2. Okay, when we're given an equation in slope-intercept form, this here represents my slope, my m value, and the 2.2 represents my b, my y-intercept. So in this first example, in part A, which statement best interprets the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept of the equation is 2.2. So we're looking for something, one of our options that has talking about our y-intercept. So the average GPA of a student increases by 0.2 points for every hour they spend studying. Well, the 0.2 is talking about the slope, so that is not the correct answer here. The average GPA of a student with 0 hours studying would be 2.2. Well, we know that 0 hours studying is our x is equal to 0, and the 2.2 is our y-intercept. So far, that makes sense. The average GPA of a student decreases by 2.2 points for every 0.2. No, that's not what's happening. That would not be logical. The average GPA of a student with 0 hours studying would be 3.7. Well, that's definitely illogical too, because you can see right here in my table, I have a student studying 1 hour and they only have a 2.4. So look for your logical answers first. In this case, it was B. In part B, it says which statement best interprets the slope of the equation in context. Well, we have already identified the slope to be 0.2. So we're going to look for our answer choices where it talks about the rate of change being 0.2. So the average GPA of a student increases by 0.2 points every hour they spend studying. So far, that one looks pretty good. The average GPA of the student was 0 hours. Well, we know that's not the answer because that was talking about the y-intercept. The average GPA of a student decreases by 2.2. No, because the 2.2 is our y-intercept. And then again, the average GPA, that's not even logical. So our only answer choice here is A. Finally, in part C, it says using the model, estimate the GPA of a student who studies 6.5 hours per week. So if our model is y equals 0.2x, instead of having y is equal 0.2x, this value right here, the 6.5, is going to be our x because that's how many hours they studied. So if we plug in 6.5 for x and then add 2.2, then we can do our calculations. So on my calculator, which unfortunately I don't think you can see because of the way I have it set up, I am going to do 0.2 multiplied by 6.5, and plus 2.2. And I y is equal to 3.5. So 3.5 is what I would enter into that blank space. All right, moving on to question 3. Which equation would best fit the data displayed in the scatter plot below? So for this, you would kind of have to draw your line of fit, You're looking for your line of fit. And when I do that, I'm going to select 2 points that fall close to the line. So in this example, I can use the point 215, and this is the point 530. And so if I select those 2 points to find my slope, then I would do 30 minus 15 over 5 minus 2. And so I'm going to get 15 over 3. And 15 divided by 3 is equal to 5. So I know that the 5 is my slope. If 5 is my slope, then it looks like A is my best answer. I can also double check that by looking at my y-intercept here. And here is my y-intercept, and that does look like that is at 5. So in this case, our best answer would be A, which is y equals 5x plus 5. And question number 4, the correlation of the data can be described as weak or strong. Well, this is definitely strong. The points are close together, and they definitely form a pattern. And is this positive or negative? Well, this slope here looks like a negative slope, so this is a negative relationship. That one was pretty easy. That should be your give me question on the test. Okay, question number 5. Which equation represent a line parallel to a line represented by y equals 1/3 x minus 5? So if we need it to be parallel and we know that the slope of the given line is 1/3, then the slope of our new line is also going to be 1/3. Then we have to look over here at the point that it passes through. So it passes through this point, 6, 8. So this is my x value, this is my y value. So once I have an m and I have an x of 6 and a y of 8, now I can plug it into my formula y equals mx plus b. So instead of y equals mx plus b, sorry, my pen's not working great today. So I'm going to now have 8 is equal to 1/3 times 6 plus b. So once I write out my equation with my y value, my slope, and my x value, then I just plug those all in, and then I need to solve for my b. So let's start simplifying. 1/3 of 6 is 2. So 2 plus b is equal to 8. And then I'm going to subtract 2 and subtract 2. Well, 8 minus 2 is 6. So 6 is equal to b. So now that I have my slope and I have my y-intercept, now I can write my equation. Y is equal to 1/3 x plus 6. And that should be one of your multiple choice options on the test and on your practice. All right, looking at this next one, I'm going to zoom in a bit because we need to look at the slope of this line. So they've given us a line, and we need to write the slope of the perpendicular line. Okay, remember our perpendicular is its opposite reciprocal. So opposite is talking about positive or negative. Reciprocal is like having 1/2 and it becoming 2/1. So let's look at the slope first. How much am I rising from this point to this point? and that's going to be a plus 3. 1, 2, 3. And then how far am I going over? Well, I just went over 1. So my slope of this line is equal to a positive 3. So the slope of my opposite reciprocal, or my perpendicular line, is going to be equal to its opposite. So if it's positive, it will become negative, and it will be 1/3, because the reciprocal of 3, remember, because this is over 1 is implied, and its reciprocal is going to be 1/3. All right. And then the second part, because perpendicular lines have slopes that are, and we already wrote it out, opposite reciprocals. Please forgive my spelling and handwriting at this point. All right, we've got 2 more questions to go. A linear equation is modeled in the graph below. Which equation represents the given line here? So the first thing we need to do is find the slope of this line. So you can either do it by using the points, and they gave you 3 points in this example. So I'm going to go ahead and take my y value of 5 and subtract my y value of 3. And then I'll take my x value of -1 and subtract a 0. So 5 minus 3 is 2. -1 minus 0 is -1. So that means that my slope is going to be equal to -2. Okay, now that I have my slope of -2, I can eliminate 2 of my answer choices. Okay, now that I have my slope, now I need to plug it into my point slope form. And it looks here, based on the x and y values that they're choosing, right? This is my x value, this is my y value. That matches this point on my graph. So let's take a look. If we plug this in, we would have y minus, what's our y value? 5. That's going to be equal to the slope, -2, multiplied by x minus a -1. And this is where they're trying to trick you, because they're expecting you to make a mistake with this double negative. But we know, because we practiced, that when we have a double negative, it's going to become a positive. So this can be simplified as -2 multiplied by x plus 1. So y minus 5 equals -2 times x plus 1. So A is our correct answer. They're expecting you to possibly select C because they think you're going to make a mistake with that negative sign. So don't do that. Remember, if you have a double negative, it becomes a positive. All right, last question. We again have to write this in point slope form. So we're going to take our x and our y value. So x1, y1, x2, y2, and we're going to find our slope first. So we're going to do 4 minus 3 over -4 minus a -1. Okay, 4 minus 3 is 1. -4 minus a -1, well, that becomes a positive. Okay, so -4 plus 1 is -3. So that means that my slope is a -1/3. So I'm going to look at my answer choices here and look just for my slope. Anything that is not a -1/3, I can now cross out. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in and look at my point slope form. So if I have y minus my y1, 3, that's going to equal -1/3, because that's the slope that I found, multiplied by x minus a -1. Well, again, here I have that double negative. So I can simplify that into a positive And so I'm going to have y minus 3 is equal to negative 1/3 multiplied by x plus 1. And when I look at that, I see that that's option B. All right. Again, they were trying to trick you with option A because they were wanting you to look at these points. But 1 is negative, 1 is positive. So if I did that, then I would have to have 1 negative and 1 positive up above. So opposite signs. All right, that's it for your review. I hope this helps. I'll be answering questions tomorrow in class.